everybody. Welcome to Your Own Pathway. Happy New Year. Happy January. I'm so excited to be here, and I am very excited. And also, lots of things going on in the world that kind of I don't want to say like gave me and my guest today, ChristieLegal today, ideas about why we chose to do this episode. So, January is a month of a lot of reflections, a lot of goals, a lot of intentions. And unfortunately, one of them is ending marriages and relationships. So, Christy and I decided that, you know what? Let's do this episode as a way to educate. So, Christy Legal, thank you for being here today. How are you doing?
Thank you for inviting me. And, I'm very happy to share information with people about divorce and also about how to not end up needing to divorce again.
Yeah, yeah. I think with January, there's so much going on. And then what do you say? So first of all, I want to say that everything that I do here on Your Own Pathway and with the guests that have on, our intention is never ever to shame and judge people and make them feel a certain way. Our intention is always to educate and to inform, and you as a guest who listens or watches this decides what you want to do with this information. So always want to preface that my intention is never to ever judge, shame, make you feel a certain way, and it's always to educate so that you have the information and you make the decision that is best for you. So that's why we decided to do this episode. So it is January, and I read the news, and there's already a few celebrities who are breaking up. One of them is oh my god, Jessica Alba and her husband of 16 years. Um, and she's the only one that I can think of at top right now. So, Christy, for those that don't know you, can you please tell our guests what you do and what kind of qualifications you have to talk about this topic?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So my business is Christie Legal, and my name is Christy Thompson. And I am a divorce and child custody paralegal and mediator in Minnesota only. And I have been doing this work for 11 years, and I help people divorce and handle child custody cases um, in a way that I work with both parties. And I help them reach agreements, I write their court documents, and I help them through the extremely simplified court process. So, something that normally costs people at least $10,000 a person. My clients on average pay me between $1,200 and $2,000 for a complete divorce.
Complete, not per hour, not whatever it is that how long it gets dragged for.
Yep. And I do charge by the hour like attorneys do, but I charge a lot less. And because I help people reach agreements, there are a lot fewer billable hours.
Okay. Okay, people, if you want to save money and if you are willing to mediate, Christie Legal is the way to go here, and especially if you live in Minnesota. Yeah. So, Christy, just to clarify, you only work with legal marriages, correct?
Right. So folks who aren't legally married have no legal rights to any financial things. You could be partnered with someone for 20 years, but because you are not married, you have no financial interest in anything other than if you own a house together and you are on the title to the house, then you do have a 50% interest in the house. And so if you folks are separating, then I can try to help you guys reach an agreement on how you're going to handle the house. If I can't help you, then whoever it is that wants the separation will have to contact a real estate law attorney, and the real estate law attorney will help either the house to be sold or one person to refinance the mortgage and continue to own the home.
Okay. Okay. And so I'm not too familiar. What about like common law? does Minnesota have like common law spouses or that
Nope.
recognizes that, hey, you have rights or you have legality rights because you're common law?
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. You know, a lot of people say, you know, and this is nothing against people who say this at all. When people say marriage is just a piece of paper, is it just a piece of paper? Is it protection, or what would you just say to people who say marriage is just a piece of paper?
Um, well, so legally, it's a piece of paper that brings in all sorts of requirements. And so, I mean, it is kind of legally a good idea to get married because then you have a stake in the assets. Um, especially if you're not working. Um, because there's no spousal maintenance when you weren't a spouse. Um, I mean, there is child support, and that's regardless of if you're married or not married. But the child support is not going to pay all of your bills until you figure out what you want to do and are able to do to earn income. Uh,
Mhm.
you are not married and you separate from your partner.
Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but there's a trend among a lot of young women who dream of the life of being the same home girlfriend. So should you not be the stay home girlfriend then?
No, you should not, definitely not be the stay-at-home girlfriend because for a bunch of reasons, but the main one being you have no stake in anything. Like he could literally just be like, I don't want to date you anymore. And you would have to hire a lawyer, like assuming you guys own a house together, you'd have to hire a lawyer to get your share of the equity in the house, and you'd have nothing. Like you would just have to go find a job immediately to start paying for your expenses.
Oh, okay. So again, this is not to judge or shame anyone. If you don't have to be the stay-home girlfriend, try not to be the stay-home girlfriend due to financial legality concerns then.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you think it is about January that we see the increase of filing and ending of legal marriages?
Yeah, so I just read an article actually yesterday that January 6th this year, or the first Monday in January every year, is National Divorce Day.
Say that again.
It's,
January 6th.
yep, or the first Monday in January is National Divorce Day. It is the day in America where the most people file for divorce. And the busiest time of year in general in divorcing is the end of December through Valentine's Day. Um, I believe it's because of New Year's resolutions. People at the end of the year tend to evaluate how they did in 2024 and what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and then what they see as the cause of the parts that they don't like. And I know I tell people this all the time. You folks out there have not heard me say this yet, but who you partner with is the most important decision that you will ever make. You can have all the degrees in the world, you can have the most awesome house, an awesome car, and all that, and your children can be lovely, and all your friends and family are great. But if you partner with the wrong person, you're actually going to put relationships with all those people at risk. You're
Mhm.
going to put all of your financial success at risk, and you are going to put your mental health at risk. And so that is why who you partner with is the most important decision that you will ever make. So, New Year's resolutions, people are like, did I choose the right partner? Like,
Mhm.
is this person making me happy? And
Mhm.
wrong, folks. I've been married and I'm engaged. Marriage isn't like super fun happiness, fairy tale every day. It's work. And even a non married relationship is work every day.
Mhm.
But, is it more negative than positive? Does that person support your goals and feelings? Yeah. And if it's more negative than positive, at the end of the year, then people are like, yep, I am getting divorced in 2025.
Mhm. Who do you see initiate the proceedings or divorces more often than not?
Um, so it's really about 50-50.
Okay.
I mean, it might be a little slightly more women, especially if there are kids involved. Um, but then a little more often than not, men contact me
Okay.
because, perhaps they're more likely to be looking for a more affordable option. I'm not sure why. Um,
Mhm.
but just slightly more men than women tend to contact me.
So more men contact you the versus women then.
Yep, just a slight more.
What do you think it is that men contact you more?
Um, well, in addition to perhaps they are trying to find a more affordable way, um, they also might be less likely to have anxiety about handling the divorce process and the child custody case process without representation.
Mm.
Because women have made a lot of strides in every part of the society in America. But the world is, I mean, America still is fairly male dominated.
Yeah.
And so, going through a process, more women might be concerned that they need legal advice and legal advocacy.
Mhm.
And then another thing might be another reason that the men might be slightly more likely to contact me is because they might think that their spouse um, would be more likely to want to work with someone who's a woman. Um,
Mm.
so yeah,
Okay.
I am a neutral third party, not favoring either party.
Mhm. When are your services, like, beneficial, and when are your services not the best fit for someone?
Yeah. So my services are really great as long as both parties are going to be open and honest. So, I started working on a divorce case a couple of years ago, and the husband didn't want to provide his most recent financial documents. And so that's the end, and referred, both of them to some attorneys, and, they litigated for a year and a half.
Wow.
And the gentleman still had to hand over his financial documents because that's how divorce works.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your services are best for people who are willing to mediate and work together.
Yep. Yep. You got to
Okay.
be open and honest about all your finances and insurance. And, also with the child custody matters, you have to be open and honest about, your work schedule and your social schedule and how much parenting you're really going to do. That's not like a big thing that I, find that I have help people navigate, but it's one of the things. Um, but yeah, as long as the people are willing to be open and honest, I help them. I try to take as much of the emotion out of it and have it be more of a financial transaction and let's continue to co-parent these children um, in a way that's in the kids' best interest.
Mhm.
Um, and I, tell them what the laws say and then try to help them make decisions that are consistent with the laws. So now, situations in which I am not the right choice would be when one of the spouses does not want to cooperate, one of the spouses does not want to provide financial documents, um, one of the spouses, has been abusive to not only the wife but the children, and so then it just gets is if the domestic abuse was only to the wife, then I can do things that makes mediating safe.
Mhm.
Um, but if we have you know kids being abused as well, then really it would be in the best interest of the children to have an attorney involved for a couple of reasons. And let's see, another thing that wouldn't be good for my services would be, also if one of the people just absolutely does not one bit trust the other person, then yeah, it's not going to work. Um, Mediation, the basis of it
Mhm.
is two parties who are about equally powerful in a
Okay.
situation,
Mhm.
working on a resolution that of the conflict that is about equally beneficial to both parties.
Mhm.
Neither party is really going to be happy. Okay, like if people start like saying like, "Oh, I don't like that," and it's just a little too much of that.
Mhm.
I say in mediation and in divorce, neither of you is going to be happy with the result.
Mhm.
Because if one of you is happy, that probably means the other one got shafted. So,
Mhm.
like, nobody's really happy.
Yeah. Um, so basically you're saying that if you don't work well, you will literally be paying more.
Absolutely. I have mediated cases where I mediated with the people for over 40 hours during a 3-month period.
Okay.
They had some really crazy child things going on with their teenage son involving 3 different states.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to help them decide to get a mental health evaluation for one of their children
Mhm.
and agree to carry out the recommendations of the mental health evaluation. And and I'm hoping that that worked to help the child be um, a better person. And yeah, and so and then I've had a case where or several cases with orders for protection, both for the spouse and for the kids, um, people who don't speak English as their first language,
Mhm.
property in other countries, real estate property in other countries, um, clients who own financial institutions. um,
Own financial institutions, like own a bank, or like what do you mean by that?
yep, own a bank.
Holy holy moly.
Yes. So, and like one of my clients was the former CEO of a major food corporation in Minnesota. Um, so working with a mediator doesn't mean like you're poor or, you're even close to poor. Um,
Mhm.
Actually, what it means is you like to keep more of your money.
Yeah. 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 Do you see a lot of power imbalances?
Yes. Well, yes, not major ones. And then when the power imbalance is major, then I meet separately with the person who I am not sure is advocating for him or herself. And I just ask the person, like, do you understand, the things that I've been telling you? And, is there anything you have questions about? Because I feel you're not advocating for yourself.
Mm.
And when I've had to do that, the person always says, "Oh, yes, I know I'm entitled to more of the assets, but I just want to get out of this marriage."
Mm. Is that a good thing, or do you see that as a positive or negative when they say that?
I struggled with it the first time it happened, and
Mhm.
like, while I was talking to that person, I was like, But like,
Mhm.
number one, even attorneys can't make their clients do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not even an advocate or a
Mhm.
representative for this person. Um, and so, I mean, I can't really, you know, encourage or make them do anything.
Yeah.
But the second part of it is, if somebody is willing to give up like a lot of money, he or she must be really unhappy. And for their, mental health, they must need to just be done with. And so, I'm like, you know what? I am best serving this person by helping, her just get this done. So that
Mhm.
we can just be done. Yeah, I'll be honest, it's always been women. Um,
Okay. So
always
it's
been
always been
women. I'm
women
trying to make
who
it real, but um, and it's always been women. And if she just wants to be done with it that much that she's willing to not have like a bunch of money, that's what she needs, and I'm gonna help her.
I think it comes to their mental health and their well-being. It's like, you know what? If I lose money, but I have some sort of peace of mind again and stability, I'm willing to pay more to have that back. And I I get it, sometimes you have to think what is more important for me.
Yep, yep. And I'm like, that's what we're doing then, and that's all. And yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it's sad when it happens. Because in most of the time that I've had to do that, the woman is also the one who is doing more of the parenting. So she's getting less of the money, less of the assets that were accrued during the marriage, and she's going to be doing more of the parenting moving forward.
mhm. Which kind of brings us to New Year's intentions with ending marriages. And so most of your clients are heterosexual cis couples, correct? Would you say?
Most of them are. However, I have done, as of now, I have 5 or 6 uh, not
Same sex.
heterosexual
Okay.
divorces, and it's the same regardless.
Okay. So it's the same, nothing is different, same concerns, same challenges.
Yep. And the
Mhm.
same with child custody cases. I've only worked on one so far, but a custody case where the ladies weren't married. One of them had a child, and the other partner adopted the child,
Okay.
and they didn't get married, but they did have a child custody case because they shared a child because of the adoption.
Mm, okay. Is there a difference when you are legally married when it comes to children?
Absolutely. Um, so it's actually a big issue for dads. So an unmarried father, and in the state of Minnesota and every state in the country, has no rights to his child until he gets a custody and parenting time order.
Mm,
It's been like this forever. There are various groups that are trying to change this.
mhm,
But so, if you are have a child with someone and the relationship is starting to go downhill, you need to be very proactive, because the longer it has been since the relationship deteriorates, the less likely the mom is going to be amicable with you, because she's going to find out she has all the rights and you have none. And she could have lots of people talking in her ear, and within a few months, she might even have, be dating people. And so then, yeah. So you want to get on top of it as quickly as possible. I can help people reach agreements for an amicable child custody and parenting time order. Um, we hash out the details. I write some documents. You guys file them with the court and have one court hearing. And then dad has court ordered custody and parenting time rights.
wow. It sounds like kids just make things more complex in relationships.
Yep. For sure. I have 2 of them.
Okay, and our intention in doing this episode was to really, New Year's intentions with ending marriages. And how many people do you work with have one marriages or two marriages or even three marriages that come to you?
Most people, it is their first divorce. I would say, like, 75% of them.
Okay.
And then I have about the 20% where it's their second divorce, and then a few people where it's the third or fourth.
Wow, third or fourth. Legal marriage.
Legal marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you ask them what their why they're ending their marriage, or is that something that okay,
I do
you
not
don't need
ask
to know?
them
Okay.
because we want to keep the process on track of
Okay.
being a financial transaction, because otherwise it gets very
Mhm.
lengthy and complicated.
Okay.
But I've read in psychology blogs um,
Mhm.
over the years, and I've had a few psychologists say that they agree that the main reason people are divorcing 2, 3, 4 times is a couple of things. Either there's a mental health or chemical dependency issue with the person, and so you just can't make good decisions then,
Mhm.
or the person doesn't know who he or she is. So if you don't know who you are, like, there's no way you're going to match yourself with somebody else because it's you don't even know who you are. And then the third reason is, some people don't have the ability to perceive who other people are. And that gets really tough to perceive who other people are when there are people who exist called narcissists,
Mhm.
who purposely try to make you think that they're somebody who they're not. And it really complicates it when narcissists, go after empathetic people, you know, as one of their key targets. So, yeah,
As a therapist, my work with I work with more women than men, I will say that, and I do hear a lot of things too. And what I see and hear from, especially from heterosexual couples, is often the woman carries the emotional burden of the relationships. And more often than not, both people are working. We live in a capitalist society here in the United States of America. Both people are working, and unfortunately, in heterosexual marriages, it's still the woman carrying the emotional burden, caring for the children, doing like what you said about the woman just saying, I will willingly lose money to have my peace of mind. And they do more than parenting. And so all of that women are still carrying. And I want to preface that these are millennial women, not millennial and Gen X women, and who are feeling this. It's not like, oh, our mother's generation. No, these are women my age and your age. I'm 41. So a lot of women are feeling this, and they're just like, I'm so emotionally exhausted. And especially when we have children, and I shouldn't have to ask him. He should see it. I shouldn't have to ask him to do the simplest task when he sees the dishes, when he sees that things need to be like picked up. I shouldn't have to ask. He should know. And so it's another responsibility for them, where it's just like, why is my life so complicated? Is it easier if I become an actual single mother versus feeling like a single mother in this marriage?
yeah, yep, yeah. I'm a little sad to hear that it's still like that for because I'm 51. That it's like that for people who are much younger than me.
It's still happening, Christy. You think that it's better, but no, unfortunately, it's not. And I don't know if it's like, are we not raising our sons to be better or be conscious of all this, or what is it? And women are emotionally tired, emotionally and physically tired from this, where they feel like they are a single mom in a marriage here.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, there's all sorts of reasons for it. And um so do we would it be good to start talking about how we can
Yeah.
tips for avoiding marriage
Yeah.
in person again?
Yeah. And so I just again want to say that people change. People change in relationships, people change in marriages. When you are 25, 26, 27, getting married, you are going to be very different from being the 40-year-old. Heck, I'm different from being 39, that was like 2 years ago. And so people change so, so, so much. And again, this is not to blame anyone for not seeing who the person they married is, has changed. People change. And I think, even as millennials and Gen Zs, we are walking our own path. And yet, a lot of us still feel the pressure. And I'm going to call this, especially women, we feel the pressure after 30 to settle down, because if you want children, tick tock, tick tock. And we have this fear like, oh my God, it's all ending. And honestly, I'm so glad I'm not in my 30s anymore. I'm glad I'm 41 now, so that I don't have that pressure to feel like what a lot of women in their 30s feel. And I think that pressure forces them to make decisions that maybe they know may not be the best, but they want to have what everybody else has or what society deems they should have.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really sad because kids are a huge responsibility.
Yes, they are.
And unless you're actually ready for them, there's such a huge responsibility and financially take up a lot of your money.
Yes, they
So
do.
unless you are absolutely ready for them, you should not be having them. And actually, Paia and I were talking the other day about what do you think is a bigger responsibility, having a child or getting married? And although I do believe that that you should be trying to get married for life,
Mhm.
and I was married and I'm engaged, and that is my plan is
Mhm.
to be married for life. You can get out of being married. You
Mhm.
can get divorced. However, when you create a child with someone, you are with that person forever. Like,
Yeah.
not you don't have to live with that person, but you're gonna have to interact with that person in some manner at least a couple times a year, or hear about that person or whatever for the rest of your life.
You have a child forever. It's not 18 years old.
Yeah,
It's gone are those days when it's like, "You're 18 now, get out of the house." It's not that way anymore. It's children are with you longer, like, physically with you, and you are always going to be a parent.
yeah,
You're not always a spouse, but you're always a parent.
yeah. My kids are
Mhm.
adults, and I'm still parenting them.
Mhm. Yeah. And I don't think people think about that. Like, oh yeah, marriage is forever and children. And it's like, no, children are forever. Marriages don't have to be forever. And again, that's not saying get divorced, whatever. Things happen. Things happen. It is again, we're not here to judge or shame for anyone who decides to end their marriage. And yet children are forever.
Yep.
Diamonds are forever and so children are.
Yeah. And you, of course, like, should go into every marriage, um, extremely, extremely wisely. Like, I've
Mhm.
actually talked to a few people who were like, well, I just thought I'd get married to this person to see what it's like. And it's like, no, no, that is not what we do. Oh.
Do you have the stats of what is the average age for people's first divorces?
I don't, but I'm gonna guess based on just like everything I've read in my business experience that it's probably like 35.
Okay.
And some people still get married young and
Mhm.
then they're like, after 10 years together, they're out of there. But a lot of people though are not getting married till they're 30. Nah, you know what? I'm gonna bump that up to like 45 because so many people now are not getting married young.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say like more like 45.
Mhm. Or
And I've
not
had
getting married
friends
at
in
all.
their 70s getting divorced.
Yeah. That's what we call gray marriages.
Yep.
Are you seeing more of gray marriages coming to you too, or no?
Yes. Yep. For often when folks who are older are getting divorced, it's because of one of two things. Either it's been an unhappy marriage for a really long time and they're spending lots more time together because they're retired and they just
Mhm.
can't do it. Or being old costs a lot of money with medical bills. And some people will get legally divorced so that the medical bills don't drain. Like if it's just one person who's needing a bunch of medical care, so that that person's medical bills don't drain the other, both people's finances.
That's so unfortunate that it's medical bills. I mean, we live in the United States.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. And so, I dodged my first divorce. Woohoo! So dodged my first divorce. Anybody who's watching out there, if you're over 35, we all dodge our first divorces. Yay.
Yes.
Yay to us. And you and I talked about this. Again, people change. You can't predict. You can't, sometimes you don't know who that person is until you marry. And yet, some people know and they still choose to marry. And unfortunately, I've had people personally and professionally tell me that I knew this person wasn't the right one, and yet I still married them because of A, B, C, D, E. And their divorce, was like, okay, yeah, it happened. I mean, like 5, 6, 7 years around the road. I mean, they really tried to make it work and then realized, no, I can't. I'm not living the life that I want. And so we're not trying to say red flags are always there. It's like sometimes internally, and you chose this path also. And so, what do you see? What do you see? Like when people come to you, like, do they tell you their story? I know that you said that, I don't ask for reasons for divorce, but what do you see when people come to you? Like, what do they talk about? That kind of like, I ended my marriage because of this. Like, do they tell you that?
Yeah. So, one thing that people mention a lot is they really didn't know the person very well before they got married. And so, like, that's why, like, my first tip for not ending up being divorced again is to really get to know the person. Like, date the person, like, at least 3 years. Meet the person's friends and family, and, check out where the person works and, see what the coworkers think of that person. And, you know, and good Lord, please do a background check. Even if you're a man, do a background check, both criminal and financial. There's like a plethora of free information on the Minnesota court's website. Um, know the person before you marry the person. And the longer that you wait, it also protects you from being victimized by a narcissist.
Mhm.
because a narcissist can, keep the mask on for only so long. And the longer that you're dating and not married, the more likely that the narcissist will pull the mask off. And then you can be like, oh, that is not somebody who I want to be partnered with for life. Thank you. Pull
Mhm.
the mask off.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know that a lot of people are like, "I don't people change after marriage." I get that, and, um, I think here in America, a lot of people base their relationships first on physical intimacy, like sex. Like, sex is the way to start the relationship, like, they start hooking up, and it's like, "Oh, okay, we like each other," and I would, I would not recommend that. Have your relationship be based just on that because was it Madonna who said, "Oh, what express yourself?" You know, it's like what happens like when you're out of the sheets. Do you like that person? And most people don't like who they are with. They're with that person because of, of like sex or something, and yeah, what happens, like, when you're out of it? Do you even like each other? What is it about each other that you even like?
Yeah. Whenever my friends say they're dating somebody new, be it a female or a male friend, I'm always like, what do you like about that person? Oh, he or she is really cute. Okay. What else do you like about that person?
It's always a physical appearance first.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that you should not be attracted to that person, not at
Right.
all. It's like, that's important to be attracted to that person, but what do you like about that person besides them being cute or being 6'5" with blue eyes and working in finance, you know? So besides that, like, what do you actually like about that person? And when I ask that to people, they can't give me an answer. They have to really think about it.
Yeah. I mean, looks take you like 10% of the way to having a
Mhm.
relationship. There are so many things that you need to figure out if you're compatible on. And that's why my second tip is to do premarital counseling.
Okay.
And you could do that with a psychologist, or you could do that with your church clergy person.
Okay.
And premarital counseling gets at everything. I mean, you guys talk about everything. Now, of course, I mean, somebody can be dishonest during the premarital counseling, and somebody could, completely mirror what the other person says. Um, I don't know how I haven't had premarital counseling since 1993. I don't know how it works anymore. Um,
Anybody who's done premarital counseling, please comment
yeah,
and let us know, like, well,
yeah.
how is it? What do you talk about so that we can know? Because I dodged my first divorce, so I have no idea what you talk about in marriage counseling in premarital counseling.
And I have, talked to some psychologists who do that, and one thing I remember is they have, both parties fill out a questionnaire. And
Okay.
so I'm thinking that that helps at least eliminate some of the like just being dishonest. But I mean, they might complete these questionnaires together. So
Mhm.
and then the one that's trying to manipulate just talks to the other one and then just writes down what the other one says. So
Mhm.
hard to say, but premarital counseling is golden because you're going to find out the ways that you aren't compatible. And then you decide, like, is that a lot, or is that a little? Because no two people are the same.
No.
No way. And you probably wouldn't want to marry yourself anyways, because like there are annoying things about each and every
Oh
one
god, yeah.
of so we just wanna marry somebody who has a minimal amount of things that we find annoying.
Mhm. Yeah. So premarital counseling is highly recommended.
Yeah, and if you'd like a referral to, someone who does premarital counseling, you can send me an email and I'll,
Okay.
send, if you live in Minnesota. I only know Minnesota people. So,
Yeah, and I can include all Christie's information in the
oh
description
yeah.
box too. So yeah, so background checks, get to know that person. It's I know last summer there was like this series that this woman did called like Who the F Did I Marry? And this person was taking advantage of her and was married, and it's like living a double life, and you wonder how can people like not know that that person had like a wife like in a different family, and or it's so is it easy to hide that double life?
Well, so the Minnesota court's website only lists Minnesota marriages.
Mhm.
And I have found that the Minnesota courts are a lot more open with information than a lot
Mhm.
of states. Because I just, for somebody who I knew, I was looking in some other states to find out, like, if somebody was married. And it was a lot more difficult to find the information, and one of the states, I just couldn't find it online.
Mhm.
So, it creates a barrier, because, some people might not have the time or energy or wherewithal, whatever, to, do a 20, how many states do we have?
50.
I'm forgetting now. A 50-state
Yeah,
search to see if
50.
someone
Yeah, if
been
you
married
consider
in
District
another
of
state.
Columbia, that's like 51. But, I think if you are truly going to invest in this marriage, you do whatever it is because, especially like with online dating, there's so many people out there that are hiding things, and it's like check who this person is. Do they have arrests? Like what did they arrest? What were they arrested for? Was it battery, DV? What is it? Theft, whatever, these things like invest in that. If you truly want to be with that person, you want to know everything about them for your safety.
Yes, and I did, use online dating, off and on for 13
Mhm.
years. I met my fiancé on an online dating website, and yes, Paia, there are a lot of not great people on there, both male and female.
Yes, male and
And,
female, yeah.
like, so that's why you need to, before you are with someone, not in public, before
Mhm,
you're, just in somebody's home or, in a park where there aren't a lot of people with someone, you need to know their first and last name, their date of birth, and then have some kind of idea about where they've been living during the
mhm.
last 10 years. Because some people might have a really basic name like James Smith or Jane.
John Smith.
And like,
Something with Smith.
yeah. And so, like, if you look up James Smith, you're going to get like 500,
Yeah.
entries on the criminal log. But then it's like, so you need, to break it down by date of birth.
Mhm.
And then, have a lot fewer entries. Um, and, as a tip, a good way to get somebody's date of birth from them is to say, oh, I was just at my friend's birthday party, 2 weeks ago, and it was super fun. And, you know, this year on my birthday in March, I'm going to do this and that. What's your birthday?
Mhm.
And if they don't tell
Casually talk
you,
about the birthday.
yeah. And if
And
they tell you
again
they're hiding something,
and
and then
again,
stop talking to them.
yeah, and
Immediately.
again, people can always lie and people can tell the truth too. So use your intuition, trust your intuition.
And if you don't have intuition, then strictly, because I don't, then strictly analyze everything that people do and say.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, we're not trying to scare people at all. We're just saying be safe because the work that you do, the work that I do, being a therapist, unfortunately, we've seen more. We see the bad things that happen to people when they throw caution. And this is not again to blame them, but it's not doing your due diligence for yourself. And does this all sound unromantic? Unfortunately, yeah. Safety is not romantic. Your life is important, and if you don't do your due diligence, there are severe consequences.
Yep. And you know what? Don't ever be worried about somebody saying, you did a background check on me. Because guess what? If you do a background check on somebody, that, you know what that means? That means you value yourself.
Mhm.
That's what that means. And so my fiance Lonnie, um, when I was at his house a couple of weeks after we met, and I was going through my phone, and he happened to see my entry for him, because he was like sitting right next to me, and I was trying to show him a picture or something, and he saw his entry for my entry for him in my phone, and it had his full name in it, and he
Okay.
was like, how do you know my full name? And I'm like, I did a background check on you. And
Mhm.
full name, date of birth. I already had his date of birth. Um,
Mhm.
but your full name came up. And so, yeah,
How did he react when he found out that you did a background check on him?
he was like, that's great.
Okay.
He's like,
Yeah.
more women should be doing background checks. And then we wouldn't have all these victims of crime, maybe. And I was
Yeah.
like, very true.
Right. And again, this is not to blame the victim. We're not blaming the victim. We are educating here that if you have been a victim, yes. And next time, do your due diligence, do what you have to do, learn from your previous experiences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we all make
Yeah.
mistakes. They are valuable if we learn from them.
Right, right. So, number one is do a background check, get to know that person. Number two is premarital counseling. And um, number three, what would you say a number three is?
So number 3 is, if you have mental health or chemical dependency issues, deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
Get help. Be like, before you start dating, be like well onto your road to recovery, or I know you don't recover from mental health issues.
It's
But on your
ongoing,
way to,
and acknowledging that it's always ongoing and you're working and you're self-aware of it, where it's always ongoing. You're never healed. Like you are never fully healed. You're always going to be challenged and having the self-awareness. So yeah, so mental health and chemical dependency. I've seen so much of that in my line of work too.
yeah, because when you have untreated mental health issues, or you're actively suffering from chemical dependency, you just don't make good decisions. You
Mhm.
just don't. And so you're not going to make a good decision about who to partner yourself with.
Yeah.
So, get treatment, get, on a plan to make things better.
Mhm.
And then another thing is, don't give into religious and societal pressure to get married. Like, get married because you love someone, and you want to spend the rest of your life with that person, and it makes you feel good to be married and all that jazz. Don't get married because some faction of society is telling you should be.
And unfortunately, we see so much of this, and we still see a lot of this. A lot of this. Like I think this is why we see so much content of, again, part of my job is being on social media to see what the trends are, and so that I can talk about these things. And I see a lot of, again, this is nothing against like trad wives or wives who choose to stay at home and raise their family. This is nothing against that. It's the women who are selling this, like, look at this traditional life, being a mother, having all these kids and serving my husband. And it's like, where is this coming from? Is this actually from you, or is this the church, or is this some entity that tells you that you need to do this? And if that's what you want to do personally, that's fine. But if someone is telling you that you need to do that to fulfill your duty, then I would say I would question that.
Yeah. The only
Mhm.
duties we have are to God and ourselves.
Mhm. And so like when I think of God, I think of like it doesn't have to be that one God. To me, it's like spiritual. Like what do you believe for yourself? Um and I think part of that pressure is people don't get to know themselves. People do not get to know themselves. They cave in, and I know this word probably will make some people like, oof, is settle. I see a
Mhm.
lot of people settle because of pressure. And again, I see a lot of women settle because they hit a certain age, everybody's getting married, everybody's having kids. Aunts and uncles are like, everybody's asking, so when are you getting married? When are you getting married? And so you feel this like external pressure. And I would say get to know yourself, value who you are. So when people like ask these questions, you can, I'm going to have a candle here. You can tell people to like say, and you don't have to say that, but you can just apply, you know what? I'm happy. I don't need this. I don't need that. Or, it's like, Auntie, you're on your third marriage. Like, should I be taking advice from you? It's like, who are you taking advice from? Because not everybody has good feedback just because they're old
Yeah.
or they've lived life. It's like that does not give you credential to tell me how to live my life because you may be older, but you certainly have not lived life.
Yeah, and not your life.
Not my life. Yeah, exactly. So I see a lot of like men and women do this. And I, again, use women because women still feel the pressure to have children at a certain time and have this life. And it's like, oh, everybody's getting married. So I need to, it's like, get to know yourself. I always use this example. So, do you remember the movie Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think he said this to Renee Zellweger's character, like, "You complete me." And we go through life thinking that we have to find someone else to complete us. And it's like, you need to complete yourself before you find someone to complete you, because that's saying that you're not a whole person until you find someone to make you whole. And I don't believe that. I think we've been taught that we need to find someone to make us feel whole. You need to feel whole before you find someone. You need to be a whole person already, like spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, financially, all of that before you put that responsibility on someone.
Yeah, because let me tell you what happens when you don't know yourself and you're not a whole person and then you get married. Because I've seen it over and over again with my clients. So when you don't know yourself, you end up like a lot of the people who have divorced, where I'm looking at them and I'm like, how did you guys ever get married?
Right.
Like, you have nothing in common
Yeah.
except these children in the house,
Yeah.
and like you don't like to do the same things, you don't have the same values about family or religion or spending money or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world? And then I have to say it must have been physical attraction, I guess. um yeah. And then oh my gosh, I forgot my other point here. What was
Like when people don't know. And I've worked with the children of that union who are now young adults or who are adults and who have a lot of trauma, so much trauma because usually their parents divorce.
yeah.
And one of the parents got remarried and then they have a new family. And this time, the second marriage, usually they marry someone who is more aligned with them than their first one. And so because they marry the first one where they have no alignment with values or like anything, the children of the first union can be forgotten because one of the parents have moved on. And so there's a lot of trauma that we're working through. And they would tell me how the parents met, who are 180, completely 180, And I would ask, how did your parents even get married? And they would be like, I don't know. I don't know why they even got married. I don't even know why they had me. And they would say that. I'm like, wow. And so like that generational like trauma continues. Like these generational curses, these generational trauma continue. And then I hear a little bit more about each parent, and they both come from like, okay, circumstances that were like very, very difficult too. So it's like that continuation of generational trauma. And it's like, wow, like at what point is this going to end? At what point is this going to end? And the clients that I'm working with are hoping that they're the one that ends it because it's so painful. I was like, yeah, it has to end somewhere. And it could be you who ends all these generational curses because no one should have to go through what you went through, like the emotional, psychological, spiritual, everything, even physical abuse too. There's a lot that goes on. So who you have a child with, please think about that too.
Absolutely. And I did remember, and this goes right along with what you're saying, is um the other thing was about not being a whole person before
Mm-hmm.
you partner up or have a
Yeah.
child. Because if you're not a whole person, then you don't have a lot to give that other person. And
No.
when you don't have a lot to give that other person, then they're going to take you for granted. And you're not going to be treated as a equal member of the partnership. And
Mm-hmm.
your needs are not going to be met. And yeah, and that's not the kind of relationship you want. You want an equal relationship where your needs are met, and or at least always taken into consideration in every situation. And but if you're not at least close to your best self, and you're pretty complete, then you know you're leaving yourself open to not being appreciated,
Mm-hmm.
and not getting what you need from the relationship.
Yeah. And I've also seen, I don't want to say the opposite, but I've also seen what happens when that person connects with someone who is more more self-aware, and the other person becomes resentful that they're the ones that have to pick up the other person's emotional or lack of emotional, and so that other person's doing all the work, and they become resentful, they become angry. It's like, why am I the only one always giving and giving and giving, and that person is not giving because of whatever unresolved issues that they haven't worked through? That other person loses a part of themselves to make up for that other person.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you don't fix things, you're bleeding on other people. It
Mm-hmm.
has nothing to do with what you're bleeding with.
Yeah.
And and you're just going to keep bleeding in every relationship until you figure out, how to get on a path to healing, or
Right.
at least getting better, a little better.
Right. And in therapy, some people don't like to use the word codependent. Some people use that word. And sometimes when you have not worked on yourself, there's a lot of like dependency on other people to make up for your lack of. And that gets very tiring. Other people are going to get tired of that. And then they may say, you know what, I'm not going to be in this relationship anymore. So the person who doesn't have that jumps around to relationship, trying to find someone who is going to give them that. And so sometimes we see serial people who is like, why? What? You're with a new person? What? What? Like, what happened? And because it's like there's something in them that is not being fulfilled, and they're putting that responsibility on other people to fulfill that cup when they need to fill their own cup. But they don't realize that they need to fill their own cup.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
So, whew, what
Another thing we
other?
can talk
Yeah.
about is, do opposites attract? And does that make a good marriage?
Oh, what have you seen? I think that kind of goes with our previous, what we talked about like two people who are completely opposite marrying and having children. It's like, how do they even get together? And that's totally opposites attract. Does opposite attract? Is that real or is that just at the beginning?
Well, let me just first say I love the Paula Abdul song because I'm old.
I love Paula Abdul. Woohoo! Opposites attract. Is that the one where she's
Yes.
dancing with that cartoon?
I can't remember that, but
Okay.
but I love
Anybody
that
who
song.
knows Paula Abdul,
Great.
please
Um,
clarify if I'm on the right track or if I'm just like totally off.
but I love that song, Opposites Attract. And it's really catchy, but you know, it doesn't really work. So I'm an extrovert and I've dated introverts. And in the beginning, they were like, "Oh, this is fun, like doing different stuff and, you know, meeting new people and blah blah blah." But then eventually they would all be like, "Do we always have to go out and, do we always have to be around people?" And honestly, I work a lot, so it always is like once a week. Um,
That's
um
always to an introvert, okay, Christy?
yeah.
Especially
And
once a week. Some of us do once a month. Yeah, that is a lot.
and so it's like, they're really excited at first, and then they're like trying to reel you in. They're trying to make you, more like them. And so
Mhm.
there's just a lot of different things where opposites don't attract. When we're talking like personality characteristics, beliefs, and values, those
Yes.
things I just think you have to be pretty on the mark with. Now, you can be a great match with people who have different skills and abilities than you do,
Mhm.
because like I'm terrible at like anything like with my hands, like
Mhm.
fixing things or making things or whatever. I'm terrible with that. My fiance is good at that. Um I'm not super super, hot on like spending all day, you know, um with numbers, just numbers all day. But my fiance likes that.
Mhm.
And so when he eventually joins my business, he is going to be doing all the bookkeeping.
Woohoo! So that okay, yeah, like that's opposites in skills and abilities, but I I think you're so right on. And again, people who are watching this are going to say, "Well, my husband or my wife and I are complete opposites and we make it work." Yes, yes, there are some people that make it work. And I know there are exceptions out there. I'm always going to say this. There are exceptions out there,
Yeah,
and I did an episode called Four Cautionary Tales to Save Your Life. And the thing is, everybody thinks they're the exception, though.
right.
And some of us are not the exception. Some of us are just not the exception. And that's why it's important to be cautious and really evaluate, is this a value? Is this an integrity that I can tolerate in this person? Or
That's
is this something that I cannot tolerate? And I think we saw a lot of this in 2024 with the election. A lot of people are like, I can't be with this person anymore because they voted for this particular party because that goes against everything that I hold. And that's something that you have to ask yourself, like, what are things that you can accept and what are things that you cannot accept from that person? And be true to yourself and, don't try to play and convince yourself, well, I'll make them change.
sorry.
I know we gotta laugh about that.
I mean, I was extremely, extremely guilty of that.
Okay.
Um, and I even work in divorce law. And I was extremely guilty of that until well into my 40s. So, if you're not well into your 40s And that you've been doing that, well, at least you're not as old as I am. Because, people who are kind-hearted and empathetic, um, we always want to help people.
Rescue. We think we can fix. And I'm going to call women out on this. I'm going to call us women. Again, I did this for Cautionary Tales to Save Your Life, and I called out women. I'm like, women, we are notoriously known to try to fix people who we know that it's not fixable, and we think that we're some carpenter, which we have no skills in, and we're trying to fix something that is beyond our fixing. That person needs a therapist, psychiatrist, whatever it is beyond our skill level.
Brain surgery.
Yeah, brain surgery, orthopedic surgeon, and we're trying to set that bone, and it's like your bone is going to be out. I can't put it in. So it's beyond our skill level, and it's like we, why do you feel the need to fix people? Go to therapy and figure out why you feel the need to save people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And my favorite quote about this is from Julia Roberts, and she said, "Women, we are not repair shops for men."
Yes.
And I was like, wow, like I'm being a repair shop for men.
Mhm. And we're not even getting paid to repair.
Right.
We're doing it for free. Don't do anything for free, especially if you're repairing. Don't do anything for free.
Yeah. I just
Mhm.
can't even. Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
right. You do need to go to counseling because
Yeah,
there
go
is a
pay
reason that
someone.
you're doing that.
Right. They gotta go pay someone to help them. Like, you are not working for free anymore, honey, darlings.
And there are totally men who do this too.
Yes, and this is for
I
men
know
too.
some
I've
men
worked with some
who
men.
have done that, and it's because they're super nice. They're really empathetic, and the not nice women realize that about them, and they're like, "Ooh, I want you because I'm gonna be able to manipulate you."
And I have worked with men who have dealt with women like that too. And you're right. It's not just women, it is men also. In my case, since I work more with women, I hear more women's stories than men. And so both are very manipulative and take advantage of people who have not worked on themselves.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's a good list. So just to recap, number one is, oh my goodness, number one is to get
Oh,
to know that
right?
person.
Oh, no, the person. That's
Yeah,
right.
get to know that person, do a background check, do whatever it is that you have to do to keep yourself safe. And if you have children, keep your children safe too. Number two is premarital counseling. Number three was it mental health and chemical dependency. And then number 4 was, oh my goodness, what was number 4?
I think it was know yourself.
Yeah, know yourself. Like, complete yourself before you expect someone to complete you. And then number 5 was, what was number 5 here?
Don't give in to societal pressures.
Yeah, don't get into societal pressures. Was there number 6?
And then we talked about opposites don't
Yeah,
attract.
opposites don't attract. Okay.
I mean, well, they attract, but they don't work for a long-term
Yeah, they
relationship.
don't work for a long time. And, I kind of think how, girls, when you said that, it's like, oh, we want the dark brooding, kind of like, who is that? Robert Pattinson from Twilight. It's like, oh, someone who's mysterious. And you find out, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's better off if you keep that. So is there a number 7 that you would like to?
Let's talk about relationship red flags.
Okay.
So, we've got all these like, don't do this and don't do this, but
Hmm.
how do we spot the bad stuff?
Yeah. What are some relationship red flags that you see that people say to you when they are coming to you?
Hmm. Okay. Well, one would be that what's called love bombing, and it's when somebody who's narcissistic or self-centered, in the beginning, it's just like so in love with you so quickly. And is like, so wanting to insert him or herself in your life super
Mhm.
quickly. And you're just like the best thing, since sliced bread,
Mhm.
just over the top.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it's just like normal
Mhm.
because they're trying to reel you in the beginning.
Right. And I've seen people who never had affection be very susceptible to this. Like, especially if they grew up without a lot of love and affection. And when someone tells you this, they're like, oh my God, wow, this person is wonderful. They're everything. Nobody's ever said that to me. And I think people who take advantage of other people, it's like they know who to pick and choose. It's like being a predator. Like, it's being a predator. They know who to pick and choose and say, this person seems like they could be easily reeled in.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then another red flag is if the person is really controlling.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
like, man, the person's so controlling when you're just like dating. Can you imagine what
Mhm.
it'll be in a year, 2 years?
Yeah. What do you I guess, like, with the people that you work with, do you hear a lot of that this person was very controlling?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard mostly women say that like she wasn't allowed to spend much time with her friends or family. Um, he was gone a lot. She didn't know where he was, but she wasn't allowed to be gone at all. Um, she spent like whenever she wasn't at work taking care of children and cooking and cleaning. Um, like, oh, she wasn't able to go to college, but he went to college. Um, or, oh, yeah, we paid off his student loans, but we didn't pay off my student loans.
So a
Um,
lot of power, control, isolation. This is classic abuse right here for anybody who's wondering. That is classic abuse right there.
yep. Abuse is way more than being hit. And yeah, if you're being controlled or you don't have control over the finances, I even have had some clients who, just a few, who didn't have access to any of the financial accounts, zero.
That's financial abuse right there.
And they were given a cash allowance to buy like everything for the house, everything for the kids. And so then, like, eventually, as the kids got older, they went and got a part-time job, like, just so they could buy the basic necessities for the house and the kids.
And unfortunately, I've worked with clients like that too. Unfortunately, I have worked with clients like that too. And again, this is nothing to shame house moms, homemakers. Unfortunately, I heard a lot of that from homemakers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, having your own employment really gives you power
Mhm.
because you can, like, if you need to, you can leave and you can
Yeah.
take your income with you.
Mhm.
But if it's a joint bank account, well, sure, you can take whatever money's in the bank account, but then you don't have a job, so you know, no
Mhm.
time soon is there going to be more money, in a new bank account that you open.
Yeah.
Um, and if you've been out of the workforce for quite a while, which a small percentage of my clients have been out of the workforce for 10
Yeah.
plus years, 20 plus years, it's going to be really hard for you to get a job that pays decently.
Yeah. I mean, right now, economically, it's hard for new graduates to get jobs or people who've been in the workforce and know the job. It's hard for them to get jobs. And um, they're competing, like they, as in the people who are in situations like what you talked about, are competing with people who are already in the workforce, who have up to date skills. And the world is changing so much. Like, honestly, I graduated in '08, and that has changed so much in 2025. And I'm glad that I'm self employed, because the horror stories I hear of people trying to get jobs, honestly, I don't think I could. Like, I'm a therapist, but otherwise, it's hard to get a job out there if you're not a therapist, or if you're not in a field that is high in demand right now. That you're competing with so many people.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you are setting yourself up to have to move in with your parents or someone who will let you move in with them with your kids, and working a very low paying, not fulfilling job. um yeah,
Hmm.
there's nothing good that's going to come out of being controlled.
Yeah. And again, Christy and I are not blaming the victim. We're not shaming anybody who is in this situation at all. It's being aware and educating yourself on the situation. Yeah. What else do you think it's a red flag that you see a lot of your clients come to you and it's like, I'm ending my marriage because of this behavior?
Yeah. Another thing is, you know not being open and honest with information. I have like only maybe like 20% of my clients where they just have no idea what the other person has in their retirement fund, or they have,
Mm,
separate bank accounts and they have no idea what the person has in their bank account, because there's a reason people don't want you to know
yeah.
what's in their bank account and their retirement fund, and it's never a good one. And yeah, so like if somebody's not open and honest about everything, finances, where they are, what they're doing, who they're with, um, like if they're just not open and honest with you, then they are just they're not being respectful.
Right. Respect is very important. Having respect and respecting your partner is very important. And we shouldn't have to say that, and yet we have to say this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And another red flag would be, like, how I did a background check on my fiance,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Oh, that's great." And
Hmm.
if you ask somebody, you know, like for their birth date in a very, you know, non threatening way, and they don't want to give you their birth date, just forget it.
Hmm.
Um, because they probably have a criminal history,
Hmm.
or like, they've defaulted on a million loans or something like that.
Hmm.
And they're trying to hide something from you.
Yeah.
So, if somebody does not want you to be able to check them out, there's a reason.
There's a reason. Yeah. Again, I know this episode is very unromantic, and this is a very logical, very logical episode, and it's not about follow your heart, follow your dreams, living the fantasy life. What is it like, Cinderella, or fairy tale? This is not a fairy tale episode, and I think we want it fairy tale, and then not that you can't have a fairy tale, and then reality hits about certain people that you thought. And we see this so much, like on Netflix and crime shows. And people are now telling their stories on TikTok and YouTube about how they ended up with the wrong person because of unresolved, inner issues that they did not work on themselves. And again, this is not to blame anybody. This is to help educate people so that they can do what is best for them, and really protect yourself. Protect yourself, because you and I joke about this. You and I work in professions where we are the cleanup crew. And as a cleanup crew, we have to help people do a lot of cleanup.
Yep. And I love doing my job. I love getting people into happier and sometimes safer homes. Um, you know, I hope that everybody who's watching does not need to be in a safer home, but
Hmm.
I love helping people get into happier, safer homes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is our whole intention of doing this episodes, our future episodes too. You and I are going to talk more about other things to look out for too. So this is going to be a series, and again, this is to educate. And this is for anybody. This is not just for women. This is for anybody who can benefit from this. What else do you feel that is important for people to be aware of or know?
Ooh, one red flag that I thought of was if the person doesn't have many friends
Hmm.
and doesn't get along with any of his or her relatives.
Okay. How come is that? Why is that a red flag? Some people may say, you know what? They're toxic. I prefer to be by myself. I worked on myself. I don't want to be around people. Like, what if someone says that? What is the red flag about that?
Well, even introverts do like some socializing because
Mhm.
you do talk to me, Paia.
Yes, I do talk to you. Yeah.
And so like even introverts do, need to
Yeah,
socialize.
yeah, we still enjoy talking to people. Yeah, I love collaborating. I love talking to people.
And so if somebody has like maybe one friend or no friends and all of their relatives are like terrible, then it's really like I don't think it's about them. I think it's about you.
Okay. So
Because
that's like the guy, I'm gonna pick a men on this one. That's like the guy saying, "All my exes are crazy." Is that what you're kind of
yeah, that's part
alluding
of
to?
it. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Because I mean, really every single person who you dated, like, you know,
At some point, it's like, let's do some reflection here. Everybody? Okay. And so when there's a lack of accountability then.
yep,
Mm,
blaming, like people are blaming everything on everybody else. And you know what that means? When you're with them, everything's going to be your fault.
yeah. Remember that everything's gonna be your fault. Mhm.
And when things
And
aren't perfect, oh, it's something you did, even if you didn't have like anything to do with it,
you could be at work or doing some like other stuff, and this person's gonna find some way to blame you.
because he or she accepts no responsibility for anything.
And unfortunately, I've had a few people like that in my life, which are no longer in my life.
Yeah, so that's just a really important red flag is, oh, my mom is a B word and blah, like everybody is a B word or an asshole or
Mhm.
whatever. I don't know why I said B word, bitch or an
Yeah.
asshole. And yeah, all of my exes are crazy. And, like, I mean, we've all had a few exes who are crazy,
Mhm.
but not everybody who we dated is crazy. Like
Mhm.
some of them, we just weren't a good match.
Yeah. Right. Right. What about this one? Someone who has been married multiple times. Is that a red flag or no?
It
From
might
your
be.
line of work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it might be because, I do have a couple of clients that, um, I have divorced more than once,
Okay.
and, I haven't strongly encouraged them to go to a counselor
Mhm.
or a life coach, either therapist
Mhm.
or a life coach, because, you know, most of the time, like, like we said in the beginning, if you, aren't uh, picking the right partners, it's either because you have a mental health or chemical dependency issue, or you don't know yourself,
Yeah.
or you don't know how to understand others.
Mhm.
And so I just want these ladies to gain some insight as to why it is that they are
Mhm.
getting married multiple times.
Mhm. And when we say marry, we don't mean someone who was widowed or like circumstances that are out of their control. We're talking about the people who had control and are choosing to remarry and remarry and remarry.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, well, statistically, first marriages are 60% likely to end in divorce,
Okay.
second, 70%, and third and beyond, 80% likely to end in divorce.
Wow. So first marriages, is this in the United States?
In the state of Minnesota, I don't
Okay.
know if it's the same throughout the country.
Okay. So this is the state of Minnesota. 60% of first marriages are estimated to get divorced. That's kind of a high number, is it not?
Yep, and it has grown over time.
Hmm.
Because when I first started 12 years ago, it was only 50% of first marriages.
So it's gone up 10%. Okay. Why do you think it's gone up 10% from 10 years ago, from when you first started?
Mhm. Um, it could be because there are more chemical dependency and mental health issues that are causing people to divorce. That could be part of it. I didn't used to hear as much about that being a factor as I do now. Um, and it also could be, because women continue to be more financially independent.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they just don't have a reason to stay in a bad relationship if they can, at least scrape by on their own.
Yeah.
And so there's not this, oh, I can't leave him because I have nothing without him.
Right. Yeah. And I think like the whole mental health, chemical dependency, I think we're becoming more aware of it now. Like even 10 years ago, that was not talked about. That was like 2014, 15. And a lot has changed, especially after COVID, when we started really addressing and talking about mental health. And we still have a long way of mental health and chemical dependency. And I think a lot of people are now saying or accepting that, you know what, I don't have to be the one that saves that person. I don't have to stay in my marriage because this person is depleting me and they're bringing the worst out of me because of their unresolved mental health. I think in the past, especially women, and I'm going to say women because I work with women, and if anybody else works with men, please, comment below what you see too. But we
Yeah.
were taught that we had to stay with that person. Like my mother's generation was taught that they had to stick by their, spouses through thick and thin, and tolerate all the bad behaviors of their spouse. And now women are like, I don't have to. Men and women are like, I don't have to accept this anymore.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, up until, maybe 20 years ago, like men's mental health wasn't even really a thing.
Hmm.
And, now, like in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
And, and I'm very like, advocating of men's mental health.
Hmm.
Um, because I mean, they're people just like us.
Yes, they are.
And,
Yeah.
if we want to be treated equally, then we need to treat them equally too.
Right. I mean, we have to be allies of each other. We have to support each other because, if they're not well and they decide to go into a relationship, they're likely not going to treat their partner well either. And so it's important to support everybody in mental health, regardless of their race, gender, sex, whatever it is, it's mental health.
Yep, we're all people.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, Christy?
Hmm, no, that's probably good enough for today.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'll just, say that I only work in Minnesota and I
Mhm.
give everybody a free initial consultation. So just, send me an email and I'll send you my calendaring tool. If you are looking to get divorced or handle a child custody case, in a way that is more affordable, faster, and less drama.
Yeah. And so our episode today was called New Year's Intentions with Ending Marriages. Um, with the work that you do and the work that I do, we see a lot of things that coincide. Even though you and I do completely different work, it all kind of intertwines. And so I think our next episode, what is our next episode going to be about? I think I wrote this down.
Hmm.
I think it has something to do with like from the woman's perspective of what you work with, and then we want to do an episode about what it is for the man. And again, this is heterosexual relationships that we're focusing on because most of the work that you do are heterosexual relationships. So I just want to preface that. And we can definitely talk about like same sex, what you see in same sex too.
Yeah, that could be
Yeah.
another episode.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So you and I are going to really educate. I think through the month of January, we just want to educate through this, and especially through February, since tis a season for ending marriages. And again, when you see not that public figures, but yep, in January, you already saw big public figures ending long-term marriages. So it's like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's educate. Let's inform. So thank you, Christy, for being here today. I learned so much about this, and I look forward to doing more episodes with you. And for anybody who is new to the channel, please hit the like, subscribe button, and all of Christy's information is below in the description box. So we will see you next time.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everybody.